Kim Dae-ho stared at the massive display screen in the ship's main briefing room. Around him sat creatures that made him feel like a child among adults. The Gorvani captain, Veltar, stood 8 feet tall even when sitting. Her blue skin gleamed under the bright lights and her forearms moved as she spoke. Next to her, War Chief Kral of the Thurak warriors looked like a walking mountain. His thick gray hide was covered in battle scars and his small red eyes always seemed angry. Dae-ho was only 5 feet and 7 inches tall. Among his own kind back on Earth, he was average. Here on the research ship Infinite Horizon, he was the smallest crew member by far. Every day reminded him of this fact. The distress signal comes from the Epsilon Void, Captain Veltar said. Her voice was deep and commanding. This is the most dangerous void region we know of. Space itself breaks down there. Time moves strangely. Many ships have been lost. Dae-ho raised his hand. Captain, I have studied void-adapted life forms for years. The Epsilon Void might not be empty. There could be creatures living there that we have never seen before. Kral made a sound like rocks grinding together. It was his version of laughter. The tiny human thinks he knows about the void. What could something so small understand about real danger? Several other crew members joined in the laughter. Dae-ho felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. This happened almost every day. No matter what he said, no matter how much he knew, they saw him as weak and useless. My research shows that void regions have their own ecosystems, Dae-ho continued, trying to keep his voice steady. The creatures there might have abilities we cannot imagine. If we go in without understanding them, we could be walking into a trap. Enough, Veltar said, waving one of her hands. We are not here to discuss your theories about void monsters. A ship is in distress. We have a duty to help. Dae-ho looked around the room. The only friendly face belonged to Dr. Yoon Soo-jin, another human scientist. She gave him a small smile, but she could not speak up. She was even smaller than him, and the alien crew members barely noticed her at all. Navigator Bex, a member of the Vakari species, looked at Dae-ho with something like sympathy. The Vakari were not as small as humans, but they were much smaller than the Gorvani and Thurak. Bex understood what it felt like to be looked down upon by the larger species. The void affects different species in different ways. Dae-ho tried one more time. Humans might have advantages that larger species do not. Our brains work differently. We might be able to handle void exposure better than others. Kral stood up, his massive frame blocking the light from above. Listen, little human. Your species is new to space. You have been traveling between stars for less than 200 years. My people have been warriors for thousands of years. We know about danger. We know about survival. You know about hiding in laboratories and reading books. The war chief leaned down until his scarred face was close to Dae-ho's. When real trouble comes, size matters. Strength matters. Speed matters. Your kind has none of these things. You are soft and weak and slow. The only reason you are here is because the Galactic Council says every research mission needs a human observer. It is a rule, not a choice. Dae-ho clenched his fists but said nothing. He had heard these words before in different forms from different mouths. Every alien species seemed to think humans were worthless. They saw his small size and assumed he was helpless. They looked at human history and saw nothing but a young species that had barely learned to leave their home planet. We leave for the Epsilon Void in 1 hour, Captain Veltar announced. All departments prepare for void entry. Dr. Kim, since you are so interested in void creatures, you will monitor all biological sensors during our mission. Try not to jump at shadows. The briefing ended and the crew filed out. Dae-ho remained in his seat staring at the display screen. The image showed the Epsilon Void as a dark cloud in space, where stars seemed to bend and twist around something invisible. Soo-jin approached him. Do not let them get to you, she said quietly in Korean. Your research is important. I have read all your papers. You understand void life better than anyone on this ship. It does not matter what I know, Dae-ho replied in the same language. They will never listen to someone like me. Maybe not now, Soo-jin said. But the void is different from normal space. Out there, all their strength and size might not help them. Your knowledge might be the only thing that saves us all. Bex approached them. The navigator's species looked somewhat like tall, thin humans, but their skin was pale green and their eyes were much larger. I wanted to apologize for the others, Bex said. Not all of us think humans are worthless. Thank you, Dae-ho said. But I am used to it by now. You should not have to be, Bex replied. I have studied human achievements. Your species learns faster than any other. You adapt to new situations better than most. These are valuable traits even if others cannot see them. Deho felt a little better, but not much. Words of support were nice, but they did not change the reality of his situation. He was trapped on a ship full of beings who thought he was useless, heading into the most dangerous region of space known to science. As he walked to his laboratory, Deho passed through the ship's main corridors. The infinite horizon was built for large species. The ceilings were 12 feet high. The doorways were wide enough for 3 humans to walk side by side. Everything was designed to make the bigger crew members comfortable. Humans had to use special platforms just to reach some of the control panels. In his lab, Deho reviewed his research one more time. He had spent years studying the few samples of void-adapted organisms that science had collected. These creatures were unlike anything else in the known galaxy. They seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime. Some could phase in and out of reality. Others could manipulate gravity or electromagnetic fields with their thoughts. Most importantly, these creatures showed no signs of the madness that usually affected organic minds in void regions. Something about their biology protected them from the reality-warping effects of void space. Deho suspected that certain types of neural structures might be naturally resistant to void corruption. The ship's engines hummed to life, and Deho felt the familiar sensation of entering hyperspace. Soon they would reach the edge of the Epsilon void. Then the real test would begin. His computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from the sensor department, forwarding the official readings from their approach to the void region. What Deho saw made his blood run cold. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the official records. Whatever was waiting for them in the Epsilon void was far more complex and powerful than anyone had imagined. The distress signal they were following might not be from a ship in trouble. It might be bait in a trap designed by something that understood exactly how different species would react to a call for help. Deho tried to contact the bridge, but his communication request was denied. Captain Veltar was too busy preparing for void entry to listen to concerns from the ship's smallest crew member. As the infinite horizon approached the dark clouds of the Epsilon void, Deho could only watch his instruments and hope that his knowledge would be enough to keep them all alive. Deep in the darkness ahead, something vast and ancient was waiting, something that would change everything he thought he knew about his place in the universe. The moment the infinite horizon crossed into the Epsilon void, everything changed. Deho felt it first as a strange tingling in his mind, like someone was gently touching his thoughts. Around him, his laboratory equipment began showing readings that should have been impossible. On the bridge, alarms started blaring. Through the ship's communication system, Deho could hear Captain Veltar shouting orders. The main engines were fluctuating. Navigation was failing. Worst of all, several crew members were reporting headaches and confusion. Deho ran to the bridge, his small size allowing him to move quickly through corridors filled with panicking crew members. When he arrived, he found chaos. The massive Thurak warriors were stumbling around like they were drunk. Several Gorvani officers were holding their heads and moaning. Even Captain Veltar looked pale and sick. "What is happening to my crew?" Veltar demanded when she saw Deho. "Void corruption," Deho said. "The reality distortions here are affecting their minds. The larger the brain, the more vulnerable they are to void influence." "That makes no sense," Krall growled. The war chief was leaning against a wall, his usual confidence replaced by obvious discomfort. "Bigger brains should be stronger, not weaker." "Not in void space," Deho explained. "Void corruption works by creating false connections in neural networks. The more complex the brain, the more places for the corruption to take hold. Smaller, simpler neural structures are naturally more resistant." As if to prove his point, Sujin arrived on the bridge looking perfectly normal. Behind her came Navigator Bex, who also seemed unaffected by whatever was making the larger crew members sick. "Dr. Kim is right," Sujin said. "I have been monitoring the biological effects since we entered the void. Humans and Vakari show no signs of void corruption. The larger species are all showing symptoms." Veltar gritted her teeth. "Can you treat it?" "I can try," Deho said. "But first we need to understand what we are dealing with." He moved to the main sensor station, pushing aside a Gorvani technician who was too dizzy to work properly. The displays showed energy patterns unlike anything in the standard databases. But to Deho, who had spent years studying void phenomena, they looked familiar. "Captain, there are life forms out there," he said. "Lots of them. They are trying to communicate with us. Communicate? Crawl laughed, but the sound was weak and shaky. Void monsters do not communicate. They kill and consume. These are not monsters, Deho said firmly. Look at the patterns. They are mathematical, organized. This is language. On the main screen, shapes began to appear outside the ship. At first they looked like clouds of glowing gas, but as Deho adjusted the sensors, their true nature became clear. They were creatures made of crystalline structures that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially in something else. They moved through space without engines, changing direction by shifting their crystalline bodies. They are beautiful, Sujin whispered. They are dangerous, Veltar said. All weapon systems prepare to fire. No, Deho shouted. Captain, please. Let me try to communicate with them first. If we attack them, we might start a war with beings we do not understand. The crystal creatures moved closer to the ship. As they did, their bodies began to pulse with different colors of light. The patterns reminded Deho of something he had seen in his research. Sujin, remember the void organisms we studied last year? The ones from the Kepler Nebula? Sujin nodded. They used bioluminescent patterns to communicate with each other. Exactly. And these creatures are using the same type of language. Deho turned to Captain Veltar. Give me control of the ship's external lights. I think I can talk to them. Veltar was still fighting the effects of void corruption, but she was smart enough to recognize that Deho was the only one thinking clearly. Do it. But if they attack, we defend ourselves. Deho took control of the ship's lighting systems. He began flashing the external lights in patterns based on his research into void creature communication. Simple mathematical sequences at first, then more complex patterns. The crystal creatures responded immediately. Their bodies flashed with lights that followed the same mathematical rules Deho was using. They were talking back. What are they saying? Bex asked. I am not sure yet, Deho admitted. But they are definitely intelligent, and they do not seem hostile. For the next hour, Deho worked to establish a basic communication protocol with the crystal creatures. Sujin helped him analyze their responses while Bex tried to keep the ship's systems working, despite the void interference. Gradually, patterns emerged from the light conversations. The creatures were curious about the ship. They wanted to know why the large crew members were sick while the smaller ones were fine. Most importantly, they seemed to recognize something familiar about the humans. They keep flashing a specific pattern when they look at us, Sujin said. It translates roughly to small cousins or little brothers. Cousins? Deho frowned. What could they mean by that? Before anyone could answer, the ship's long-range sensors detected something massive approaching. It was too big to be another ship, too organized to be a natural phenomenon. As it came closer, the truth became clear. It was alive. Something the size of a small moon was moving through the void toward them. The crystal creatures suddenly scattered, their light patterns changing to what could only be described as excitement. Captain, the sensor operator called out. You need to see this. On the main screen appeared something that defied description. It looked like a whale made of dark matter and starlight. Its body was translucent, showing swirling galaxies within its form. Eyes the size of cities regarded the small research ship with ancient intelligence. What is that thing? Veltar whispered. Deho stared at the creature in wonder. I think it is a Voidborn titan, the theoretical maximum evolution of void-adapted life. We always thought they were just legends. The titan moved closer, and as it did, something impossible happened. The void corruption affecting the larger crew members began to fade. The chaotic energy around the ship organized itself into stable patterns. Reality became solid again. How is it doing that? Kral asked. The war chief was standing straighter now, his mind clear for the first time since entering the void. I do not know, Deho said, but I think it is trying to help us. The Titan stopped just outside the ship's sensor range. Its massive eyes focused on the bridge where Deho stood. For a moment that felt like an eternity, human and Titan regarded each other across the void. Then the creature did something that changed everything. It spoke, not with words or light patterns, but directly into their minds. The message was simple and clear. Little cousin, why do you travel with those who cannot hear the void's song? The question was directed specifically at Deho. Somehow the Titan could distinguish between different species on the ship. It knew that humans were different from the others. We are explorers, Deho thought back, hoping the creature could hear him. We came because we received a distress signal. The signal was bait, the Titan replied. Pirates use it to lure ships into the void. They harvest technology and sell crew members as slaves. You are in danger, little cousin. As if summoned by the Titan's words, new ships appeared on the sensors. These were clearly built for war. With heavy armor and massive weapons, they moved toward the infinite horizon with obvious hostile intent. Captain, the sensor operator called out. 6 ships approaching fast. They are not responding to hails. Veltar looked at Deho. It seems your void creature was telling the truth. We are about to be attacked. The pirates opened fire without warning. Energy beams lanced through space toward the research ship. But before they could hit, the Voidborn Titan moved between them and the attacks. The creature absorbed the weapon fire harmlessly into its massive body. The Titan is protecting us, Sujin said in amazement. But why? Veltar asked. Deho looked at the ancient creature floating between them and certain death. I think it recognizes something in humans, something that connects us to the void itself. The battle was about to begin, and Deho realized that everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy was about to change forever. The pirate ships circled around the Voidborn Titan like wolves around a bear. Their weapons fired continuously, but the ancient creature absorbed every blast without apparent harm. Inside the research ship, Captain Veltar was trying to coordinate a defense while Deho watched in fascination as the Titan fought. Their weapons cannot hurt it, Sujin observed. The energy just disappears into its body. It is not just absorbing the energy, Deho said, studying his sensors. It is converting it into something else. Look at the readings. The Titan is using their own weapon fire to power some kind of ability. The Titan proved him right moments later. Its massive body began to glow, and suddenly the space around the pirate ships twisted. Reality folded in on itself, creating a maze of bent space-time that trapped the attacking vessels. They could fire their weapons, but the shots curved back toward their own ships. Impossible, Krall muttered. No creature should have that kind of power. This is not just any creature, Deho said. This is a being that has lived in the void for millions of years. It has adapted to control the very fabric of reality. One of the pirate ships managed to break free from the space-time trap. Instead of fleeing, it headed straight for the infinite horizon. The captain was clearly desperate to capture something valuable before the Titan could stop him. All hands prepare for boarding, Veltar announced. They are coming for us. Captain, Deho said quickly. Let me try something. The Titan called me little cousin. Maybe it will listen to me. Before anyone could stop him, Deho closed his eyes and reached out with his mind toward the massive creature. He had no training in telepathic communication, but somehow he knew the Titan would hear him. Great one, he thought as clearly as he could. The pirates are trying to reach our ship. Can you help us? The response came immediately, filling his mind with warmth and ancient wisdom. Little cousin, your ship carries the scent of the old ones, the small people who once walked between the stars. You are their children, are you not? I do not understand, Deho thought back. What old ones? Those who came before, those who built the first bridges between the void and normal space. They were small like you, peaceful like you. They understood what the larger races could not, that strength comes from harmony, not domination. The pirate ship was almost close enough to attach boarding tunnels when the Titan acted. With a gentle movement that defied physics, the ancient creature reached through folded space and simply picked up the attacking vessel. The pirates found themselves held in a grip made of controlled gravity and dark matter. Your people have forgotten much. The Titan continued its mental conversation with Deho. But the void remembers everything. We have been waiting for the children of the old ones to return to us. We are just explorers, Deho replied. We do not even know about these old ones you mention. Then it is time you learned. But first we must deal with these pirates. They have been using void technology they do not understand. They are dangerous to everyone. The Titan's mental voice changed, becoming stern and commanding. Suddenly all the pirate ships found themselves trapped in bubbles of twisted space. They could not move, could not fire, could not even communicate with each other. Now, little cousin, the Titan said to Deho, come to us. Bring your female companion. You must see what the pirates have done. It wants us to leave the ship, Deho told the bridge crew, Sujin and me. Absolutely not, Veltar said immediately. I will not allow crew members to leave the ship to visit some unknown alien creature. Captain, Deho said carefully, this creature just saved all our lives. It has power beyond anything we have ever seen. If it wanted to hurt us, we would already be dead. Krell stepped forward. I will go with them. If this is some kind of trick, they will need protection. The Titan's laughter echoed in Daeho's mind. The large warrior cannot come. His mind is too rigid, too focused on conflict. He would not survive the transition to void space. Only those with flexible thoughts can walk between realities. It says you cannot come, Daeho told Krall. Something about your mind being too rigid. The war chief's face darkened with anger. No alien creature tells me where I can or cannot go. Actually, Navigator Beck said quietly, I think it can. Look at the power readings. That Titan could destroy our entire ship with a thought. Maybe we should listen to what it says. Captain Veltar considered for a long moment. Dr. Kim, if you and Dr. Yoon choose to accept this invitation, you go as volunteers. I cannot order you to take this risk. I am going, Daeho said without hesitation. This might be the most important first contact in human history. Sujin nodded. I am with him. We are scientists. This is what we trained for. The Titan created a tunnel of stable space between the research ship and its own body. Daeho and Sujin put on void suits and entered the tunnel. The experience was unlike anything either of them had ever felt. They were walking through space itself, but the space was alive and aware. Do not be afraid, the Titan's voice whispered around them. You are children of the void. This is your birthright. They emerged inside a vast chamber within the Titan's body. The walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. In the center of the chamber sat something that made both humans gasp in wonder. It was a ship, but not like any ship they had ever seen. It was grown rather than built, its organic curves suggesting it had once been alive. Strange symbols covered its surface, symbols that hurt to look at directly. This belonged to the old ones, the Titan explained. The pirates found it drifting in deep void and tried to use its technology. They do not understand what they have awakened. Sujin approached the ship carefully. It is beautiful, but I can feel something wrong about it. Like it is sleeping but having nightmares. Very good, young one. You have inherited your ancestors' sensitivity to void currents. This ship contains a warning left by the old ones. A warning about something they called the sleepers. What are the sleepers? Daeho asked. Beings that exist in the deep void, creatures that feed on reality itself. The old ones built barriers to keep them contained. But those barriers are weakening. The pirates' crude attempts to use void technology have damaged the ancient protections. The Titan showed them images directly in their minds. Vast shapes moving in the deepest parts of void space. Things that existed before galaxies formed, before stars were born. Things that saw all of creation as food to be consumed. Your people were chosen to maintain the barriers, the Titan continued. But you were driven from your home long ago, before the knowledge could be passed down. Now you have returned, but you come ignorant of your true purpose. What happened to the old ones? Sujin asked. They sacrificed themselves to strengthen the barriers. But they left their children behind, your species. Humans carry the genetic memory of void walking. You just need to remember how to use it. The ancient ship in the chamber began to glow brighter. Symbols on its surface rearranged themselves into new patterns. Daeho found that he could almost understand them, as if the knowledge was hidden somewhere in his mind. The ship is responding to you, the Titan said with satisfaction. The old ones built it to recognize their descendants. Only humans can activate its systems. What do you want us to do? Daeho asked. Learn, little cousin. Remember what your people once knew. The void is not empty space, it is a living network that connects all things. Your ancestors helped us maintain that network. Now it is time for their children to take up that responsibility again. The Titan began sharing memories directly with both humans. They saw glimpses of an ancient civilization. Small, peaceful beings who could step between dimensions as easily as walking through a door. Beings who understood that true power came from cooperation with the universe rather than domination over it. But first, the Titan said, we must deal with the immediate problem. The pirates have awakened something in the deep void, something that should have remained sleeping. We need your help to put it back to sleep before it reaches normal space. As if summoned by the Titan's words, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Deep in the void, something vast and hungry had noticed the disturbance. The sleepers were beginning to wake. Daeho felt a strange sensation in his mind as if ancient knowledge was trying to surface. He was no longer just a small human scientist mocked by larger aliens. He was something much more important. He was a guardian of reality itself, and the universe needed him to remember how to do his job. The real test was about to begin. When Daeho and Sujin returned to the infinite horizon, everything had changed. The moment they stepped back onto their ship, both humans felt different. The knowledge the Titan had shared was working its way through their minds like water soaking into dry earth. "Report," Captain Veltar demanded as soon as they reached the bridge. "We have a problem," Daeho said. "A very big problem. The pirates were using ancient technology they did not understand. They have accidentally weakened barriers that keep dangerous things contained in the deep void." "What kind of dangerous things?" Krull asked. Sujin answered. "Beings called the Sleepers. They existed before our galaxy was formed. They feed on reality itself. The ancient civilization that built the barriers called them the end of all things." "That sounds like mythology," Veltar said skeptically. "Captain," Daeho replied, 3 hours ago you would have said Voidborn Titans were mythology too. We are dealing with forces that go beyond our current understanding of science." The ship's sensors suddenly detected massive energy signatures approaching from deeper in the void. Whatever was coming was bigger than the Titan, and it was moving fast. "Multiple contacts," the sensor operator called out. "Unknown energy signatures. They are huge, Captain." On the main screen, shapes began to emerge from the deep void. They looked like mountains of living shadow, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light itself. As they moved closer, reality around them began to break down. Space twisted. Time flowed backward and forward randomly. "The Sleepers," Sujin whispered. "They are already waking up." The Voidborn Titan moved to intercept the approaching horrors, but even its immense power seemed small compared to what was coming. The ancient creature's mental voice reached Daeho again. "Little cousin, we cannot fight them directly. The Sleepers are too powerful when they are awake. We must use the old ways. You must remember how to sing the void to sleep." "I do not know how to do that," Daeho thought back desperately. "The knowledge is in your blood. Your people sang the void songs for millions of years. Trust in your inheritance." Daeho closed his eyes and tried to reach deep into his mind. Somewhere in his genetic memory, the knowledge had to be there. As he concentrated, he began to feel strange sensations. His perception of the ship around him started to change. He could sense the life force of every crew member. He could feel the energy patterns that held the ship together. Most importantly, he could hear something like music coming from the void itself. It was the song the Titan had mentioned, the fundamental frequency that kept reality stable. "Sujin," he said urgently, "can you hear it?" "The song?" Sujin tilted her head, listening to something only she could perceive. "Yes, it is like music, but not music. It is the sound of space itself." "What are you two talking about?" Captain Veltar demanded. "The void has a natural frequency," Daeho explained quickly, "like a musical note that keeps everything in harmony. The Sleepers disrupt that frequency. That is how they destroy reality. But if we can strengthen the song, we can force them back to sleep." "How do we strengthen a song made of space?" Krull asked. Daeho was beginning to understand. "Humans are natural void singers. Our ancestors built the barriers by harmonizing with the void's frequency. We need to add our voices to the song." "Our voices?" Veltar looked confused. "You mean literally sing?" "Not exactly. We sing with our minds, with our life force. But I cannot do it alone. I need other humans to help amplify the signal." Sujin nodded. "There are 12 humans on the ship. If we all focus together, it might work," Daeho finished. "But we need to do it now. The Sleepers are getting closer." Captain Veltar made a decision that surprised everyone. "All human crew members report to the bridge immediately. Dr. Kim will explain what you need to do." Within minutes, all 12 humans on the infinite horizon had gathered on the bridge. They were scientists, technicians, and support staff. None of them had any training in whatever Daeho was asking them to do. "I need everyone to close their eyes and listen," Daeho said. "Try to hear the music of space itself. It will sound different to each of you, but it will be there." The humans formed a circle in the center of the bridge while the alien crew members watched nervously. The Sleepers were getting closer, and reality distortions were affecting the ship's systems. One by one, the humans began to hear the void song. A technician named Park Min-ho was the first after Sujin to perceive it. Then Lee Hye-jin from the engineering department. Soon all 12 humans were nodding in recognition. "Now," Daeho said, "we add our voices. Do not try to change the song. Just join it. Become part of it." What happened next was impossible to describe to anyone who was not there. The humans did not make any sound with their voices, but something resonated from them. Their combined life force began to harmonize with the fundamental frequency of the void. The effect was immediate. The approaching sleepers slowed their advance. The reality distortions around the ship began to stabilize. Most importantly, the Voidborn Titan's power seemed to increase dramatically. "It is working," the Titan's voice echoed in all the humans' minds. "You remember the old songs? Now we can rebuild the barriers." But the effort was exhausting. Tejo felt like his mind was being stretched across vast distances. Around him, the other humans were showing signs of strain. Sujin's nose was bleeding. Park Minho had collapsed to his knees. "We cannot maintain this much longer," Sujin gasped. "You do not need to," the Titan replied. "Look around you, little cousins. You are not alone." On the ship's sensors, new contacts were appearing. More Voidborn Titans drawn by the human song. Dozens of them, then hundreds. They had been sleeping in the deep void, but the sound of humans singing the old songs had awakened them. Each Titan added its power to the growing harmony. The void itself began to respond, creating new barriers to contain the sleepers. Reality solidified around the sleeping horrors, trapping them in crystalline prisons of folded space-time. "We did it," Deho whispered as the last sleeper was contained. "We actually did it." But the greatest surprise was yet to come. As the humans recovered from their effort, they found that they had changed. Each of them could now perceive the void directly. They could sense the energy flows that connected all things. They had awakened abilities that had been dormant in their species for millions of years. Captain Veltar, the lead Titan, communicated, its voice now reaching all minds on the ship. "We formally recognize the humans aboard your vessel as kin of the void. They have proven themselves worthy of their ancient heritage." "What does that mean?" Veltar asked. "It means," Deho said, standing straighter than he had since coming aboard the ship, "that humanity has just joined the oldest alliance in the galaxy. We are no longer the new species that needs protection. We are the guardians that others will look to for protection." The void around them was no longer dark and threatening. It was alive with possibilities, singing with the voices of ancient powers that had accepted humanity as family. And at the center of it all, a small human scientist who had been mocked for his size now stood as humanity's first ambassador to forces beyond imagination. The pirates, still trapped in the Titan's gravity wells, could only watch in terror as they realized what they had awakened. They had expected to prey on a weak research ship. Instead, they had witnessed the return of the void's true guardians. Everything was about to change. The pirate ships hung motionless in their gravity prisons, but their crews were not giving up. Through the Infinite Horizons communication systems, threatening messages poured in from the trapped vessels. "Release us immediately," the pirate captain demanded. "We have backup fleets coming." "You cannot hold us forever." Captain Veltar looked at Deho. In just a few hours, the small human had gone from being the ship's least important crew member to the only person who could communicate with beings powerful enough to reshape reality. "What do the Titans want to do with them?" she asked. Deho closed his eyes and reached out to the lead Titan's mind. The ancient creature's response came back immediately, filled with cold anger. "The pirates have been stealing void technology for years. They have sold weapons to species that should never have them. They have damaged the barriers we spent eons building. Justice must be served." "They want justice," Deho reported. "These pirates have been causing damage throughout the void regions." "What kind of justice?" Krull asked. The war chief had been unusually quiet since watching humans accomplish what his warrior training never could. The answer came in the form of action rather than words. The Titans began to merge their power, creating something that defied description. Reality folded and twisted around the pirate ships until they existed in a separate pocket of space-time. "They are being sent to a prison dimension," the lead Titan explained to Deho. "They will have food, water, and air, but they cannot escape or cause further harm. Their weapons and stolen technology will be returned to those they stole from." Sujin, who was monitoring the process with her enhanced perceptions, gasped in amazement. "They are rewriting the laws of physics around the ships, creating a stable pocket universe with different rules. This is what we once did regularly," the Titan continued. "Your ancestors helped us maintain order throughout the galaxy. Pirates, warmongers, those who would destroy rather than create, all were contained until they learned better ways. As the pirate ships disappeared into their dimensional prison, more contacts appeared on the ship's sensors. But these were not enemies. Ships from across the galaxy were converging on their location, drawn by the massive energy signatures of the Titan gathering. Multiple vessels approaching, the sensor operator reported. I count representatives from at least 20 different species. Word has spread quickly, Navigator Bex observed. Everyone wants to see what happened here. The first ship to arrive belonged to the Galactic Council, the governing body that included representatives from all major spacefaring species. Ambassador Thex, a tall crystalline being, requested permission to come aboard. When Thex materialized on the bridge, his reaction to the gathered Titans was exactly what Deho expected. The ambassador's crystal body flickered with colors that indicated extreme nervousness. Captain Veltar, Thex said, his voice carefully controlled. The Council has detected massive energy signatures from this location. We need to understand what has happened here. We made first contact with the Voidborn Titans, Veltar replied. Dr. Kim here has established communication with them. Thex's crystalline form turned toward Deho. The human? But humans they are small, Deho suggested with a slight smile. Weak, insignificant? I did not mean to imply, Thex began. But the lead Titan's voice cut through the conversation. Ambassador Thex, the ancient being said, its words reaching every mind on the bridge. You speak to the heir of the Voidwalkers. Show proper respect. The ambassador's crystal body went completely transparent with shock. The Voidwalkers? But they are legends. They disappeared millions of years ago. They were driven from their homes by those who feared their power, the Titan replied. But they survived. They adapted. They spread across the galaxy under a new name. You know them as humans. Around the bridge, the alien crew members were beginning to understand the magnitude of what they were witnessing. The species they had dismissed as weak and primitive was actually the descendant of the galaxy's most ancient and powerful civilization. Dr. Kim, Ambassador Thex said, his voice now filled with respect. The Council would be honored if you would address the full assembly. I will consider it, Deho replied. But first we have work to do here. Over the next several hours, more ships arrived. Scientists, diplomats, military commanders. Everyone wanted to see the returned Voidwalkers. But most importantly, other humans began arriving. Ships from Earth, from the colonies, from research stations throughout human space. When Dr. Angela Chen from the Earth Science Academy met Deho, she brought troubling news. We have been monitoring strange energy signatures throughout human space, she reported. Places where reality seems more flexible than normal. We thought it might be related to some new technology. It is not technology, Sujin explained. It is humans awakening to their true nature. The Void Song is calling to our people everywhere. The lead Titan confirmed this. The barriers between realities are thin around humans. As more of your people remember their heritage, the effects will become stronger. You will need guidance to control these abilities. What kind of guidance? Deho asked. The kind that we can provide, the Titan replied. We have waited millions of years for the Voidwalkers to return. We are prepared to teach them everything they once knew. Captain Veltar watched these exchanges with growing amazement. Dr. Kim, I owe you an apology, we all do. We judged you by your size and never saw your true value. You could not have known, Deho replied generously. I did not know myself until today. War Chief Krall approached, his massive frame no longer seeming intimidating. Human, I have something to ask of you. What is it? My people value strength above all else. We have always believed that bigger meant better. But today you have shown us a different kind of strength. Would you teach us? Deho looked at the proud warrior who had mocked him just hours earlier. What do you want to learn? How to listen, Krall said simply. How to hear the songs you hear. My people have been deaf to the music of the universe for too long. The request surprised everyone, but the lead Titan approved. The Void Song can be learned by any species with sufficient humility. Size matters less than wisdom. Strength matters less than harmony. As word of the day's events spread throughout the galaxy, a new age began. Humans were no longer seen as the weak newcomers to galactic civilization. They were recognized as the inheritors of ancient knowledge, the guardians of cosmic balance. Research stations were established in the void regions, jointly operated by humans and Titans. Young humans from across known space came to learn the old songs. Representatives from other species arrived to request training in void walking techniques. But perhaps the most important change was in how humans saw themselves. No longer did they need to prove their worth through size or strength. They had found their true calling as bridges between different realities, as guardians of the barriers that kept the universe stable. 6 months later, Deho stood in the command center of Void Station Alpha, the first permanent human outpost in the deep void. Around him, humans and titans worked together to monitor the cosmic barriers. Young humans learned to sing reality into new shapes, while ancient titans shared wisdom accumulated over millions of years. A message arrived from Earth. The Global Council wanted to send their smallest and most curious scientists to join the Void program. The message made Deho laugh. Being small was no longer seen as a weakness. It was recognized as exactly the quality needed to walk between worlds and commune with the universe's oldest powers. Through the station's windows, he could see Voidborn titans moving through space like living dreams. They no longer seemed alien or frightening. They were family, ancient cousins who had waited patiently for the Void Walkers to come home. In the distance, reality shimmered with possibilities. New worlds waited to be explored. New songs waited to be learned, new barriers waited to be built, and at the center of it all, humanity had found its true purpose among the stars. The small human who had been mocked for his size now stood as ambassador to forces beyond imagination. He had learned that in the vast darkness of space, it was not about how big you were, it was about how well you could listen to the whispers of infinity. And humanity, it turned out, had been born to listen.